Welcome back to halftime on this lovely Thursday. There is a Zoom press conference that is beginning right about now involving Arkansas head football coach Sam Pittman. And so we've recorded our usual weekly segment with Bob Holt before the show. So let's bring him on here and see what he wants to find out during this press conference. Bob, what's going on today? How are you?
I'm good. Nice weather here. I actually got out and walked early this morning. It felt like a nice spring day. It didn't feel like the middle of August.
No kidding. Doesn't feel like summer at all. Also doesn't feel like summer because the guys aren't on the football field right now. But sometime soon they will be. Zoom press conference today. I know you'll probably get the first question, even in a virtual press conference. So what's at the top of your mind talking with Sam Pittman this afternoon?
Well, yeah, a lot of things. I guess one, I'd want to know what's his reaction as a first-time SEC coach to have to play 10 SEC games, because obviously Arkansas has really struggled in SEC play, and that's why Sam's the coach. That's why they made a coaching change. He got brought back to Arkansas to try to fix the program and get them competitive again in the SEC. And when you're trying to rebuild a program, it's tough enough in the SEC, especially the SEC West, and then you have to play all conference games 10. That's never been done before, I don't believe. I know Arkansas has never done it. I don't think anybody's ever done it. So just how tough a challenge is that, to have to play 10 SEC games. I'd want to know his reaction to that. And I guess just how these preliminary workouts have been going. At least it's something. It's not like, full-scale practices. And actually, when the practices start, they'll have to sort of ease in, just wear helmets at first. But that's always been that way. But just how the guys look to this point, kind of what's the, how's their attitude, and, how good is it that, unlike a lot of these schools you're hearing about, they haven't had to shut down any practices because, guys are going to parties, which I totally get. College students want to go to parties, but, in this new normal, they got to try to be more disciplined than that. I'd want to know about that, and maybe just how anxious, how confident he is that they can actually have a season,
Now, I guess it's an odd thing to think about this, but is this the first time that you guys have had a chance to speak with Coach Pittman since coaches are allowed to be at the activities that the players are taking part in? I mean, there was no spring practice. The coaches weren't allowed to be in on the voluntary workout sessions. So I think this is the first time he is speaking to you guys with actual, eyes on players during practice sessions. Is that true?
I think that's right. I'd have to look back through my emails and notes to see the last time, but I'm pretty sure that the last time we talked to Sam, the players were on campus. They were going through supervised, conditioning and weightlifting and things like that. But the coaches, obviously the strength and conditioning coaches are allowed to see the players. But I think according to the rules, the football coaches aren't supposed to ask the conditioning coaches, hey, how's so-and-so doing? I don't know how you actually enforce something like that, but the idea of that is this is the strength and conditioning coach's time, not the football coach's time. And so, I think this will be the first time we've been able to talk to Sam since they've gotten to at least get on the field with these guys and go through some walk-through things or, things of that type. Like I say, they're obviously not having contact yet. They're not in pads or helmets, but they're at least on the field doing stuff, something. So it'll be the first time. I'm pretty positive, like you said, the first time we talked to Sam since they've had a chance to see the guys and be with them, beyond Zoom calls and things of that nature. And also, it's definitely the first time we talked to Sam since they announced they're going to play 10 SEC games.
Well, and that was the next thing I was going to bring up because the ACC came out with their schedule earlier today. Yesterday it was the Big Ten. I've been told look out for an SEC schedule sometime by the end of the week, and I would assume, I don't know if Arkansas would be able to plan it properly this way, but you'd like to know the schedule that you're supposed to play before putting the head coach out in front of the media to talk about, because he's going to get scheduling questions. And I wonder, I looked at the Big Ten schedule, and you see that they have made a little bit of an easier path to the college football playoff championship, or at least the playoff, by giving the top teams in each division, some of the bottom teams from the other division. And I wonder if you think if the SEC might do the same thing, like pit Arkansas against Georgia. I know that that's already a possibility because they're on the rotation for the Razorbacks next year. But, in this sense, I almost feel like if the SEC were to do what the Big Ten is doing, and if it's all about protecting your best teams in your conference, why wouldn't you put first place against last place in the cross-conference games?
Phil, I'm really shocked that you would think that way because the schools would try to tilt the schedule in favor of certain teams. That's just not right. I'm kidding, of course. I mean that definitely could happen. You'd like to think, in the spirit of fairness, they would, especially with a team like Arkansas that struggled to the extent they have, lost 19 straight SEC games. You'd like to think they wouldn't give them Georgia and Florida. If they did, that would kind of smack of a conspiracy. But they certainly might. Arkansas, Arkansas is probably not going to be fair against anybody, but obviously they'd probably love to get Vandy and Kentucky, and but my guess is they're going to get Florida or Georgia, and then maybe Vandy or Kentucky or South Carolina. They won't get two of the best teams. They won't get two of the. I hesitate to even say worst teams in the SEC, but especially when you think about what Vanderbilt did to them a couple of years ago here, but. My guess is they'll get Florida or Georgia, one of those, and then one of the other three, sort of balance it out. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there definitely could be ulterior motives there to make sure that the SEC, upper echelon teams have a little easier path because Alabama might say, well, we're already playing all these West teams. I think Alabama gets Georgia this year too. I might be wrong. I think it's Georgia and Tennessee, so they might say, hey, we don't need Florida on top of that. So we'll see what happens. I'm sure if it happens, there's going to be some people that are ticked off and complaining about it. It's Mark Womack, the associate commissioner who's in charge of putting the schedules together. He really has a thankless job.
Speaking to Bob Holt here on Halftime. Bob, let's switch gears and go over to men's basketball. You had a great piece in Whole Hog Sports talking about Isaiah Joe's return, cementing the top 25 status for the Razorbacks this season. We've heard from Eric Musselman talking about expectations for this team, and he's been quoted as saying, bring it on, bring on the expectations. Bob, what are your expectations now for this team with Isaiah Joe returning into the fold?
Well, yeah, I vote in the AP poll. As far as I know, I'll do it again. I hope I get to vote in the AP polls because, there's a season going on, but I would definitely put Arkansas and, well, I should say, I guess I need to study things, but my feeling right now is I would rank Arkansas in my preseason top 25 because I just think they have a really nice mixture of, talent overall and experience and some young guys coming in, and they obviously have height, which they lacked last season, but they also have a lot of good perimeter players. They have a 6'6" point guard in Jalen Tate, a transfer from Northern Kentucky, and last year that probably would have made Tate their center with Adriel Bailey. And of course, it's interesting. They have 10 newcomers, but 3 of those guys, 6 of them have previous college experience. 3 of them are graduate transfers who have just played a ton of games. I think they've played close to 300 combined games. And then they have 3 guys who have played quite a bit of college ball who redshirted. So, they had a year to get used to the system and get used to these teammates. So, it's a different kind of mix than normally they have in 10 newcomers. But I just really like the combination they have of older guys, younger guys, big guys. Their big guys can shoot the three pretty well, it looks like. It won't be uncommon if they have 5 guys on the court who all can shoot threes, which to me that makes them very dangerous. Even if you got 7'3" Connor Vanover out there, he can shoot a three. 6'9" Vance Jackson can shoot a three. Certainly 6'7" Justin Smith can. We know Isaiah can. Desi Sills can. So they have a lot of different options, whether it's front line, backcourt. I just really like this team. But it's like Eric said, they've got a lot to prove. Potential is great, but they have to do it on the court now.
And when you look at it across the SEC, obviously Arkansas's got a loaded roster. You've seen the recruiting class that Kentucky's brought in, along with the transfers. I believe LSU had 2 or 3 of their top scorers return back. When you look at the whole SEC, I think next season could be arguably one of the best seasons of SEC basketball that the conference has ever seen just for talent alone. Do you agree or disagree with that?
No, I think the SEC is really loaded. I can't remember if you mentioned Tennessee, but yeah, I think you're going to see Tennessee, Kentucky, Arkansas all be in a lot of people's top 25. You're right. LSU had some guys test the water, and then they're coming back. LSU's always going to have a lot of talent. Kentucky, they're losing a lot of guys to the draft, but they're always bringing a great class. And, I know John Calipari's not real popular with the rest of the SEC, but you got to say the guy does an incredible job every year of taking freshmen, granted really talented freshmen, but he does a really great job of getting those guys to buy in and play unselfishly for the most part. And I don't think that's an easy thing to do. He probably doesn't get enough credit for it. It's a lot of talent, but still you got to getting those guys to play unselfishly. I think it's it takes a lot of really good coaching. And so, I think the SEC, Florida's, lost some guys that maybe you didn't expect, but they've got talent too. So I think top to bottom, it's kind of like football now. I mean, the SEC top to bottom is really, really good, and there really aren't going to be any gimmies in basketball, I don't think.
Just a little bit more time here with Bob Holt as we get set for this press conference that Sam Pittman is undertaking today. Bob, I think the most useless preseason poll in the history of polls came out today, and that's the preseason coaches poll for Division I college football. This is before all players have been given the opportunity to opt out, and coaches are telling us what the top 25 teams look like. I don't think anybody has a clue what the top 25 teams are going to be no matter what. And sure, we need the conversation. We absolutely need it, but it's about as useless of a poll as we could find. I think in 2 weeks, when we have a better idea of who's opting out of the season, then we'll have an idea of what the upcoming season will look like as far as, who your favorites are and who your bottom feeders are going to be.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize the coaches' poll was coming out today, but you think with everything going on, it might behoove them, USA Today and the coaches to say, hey, let's put this off for a little while. I think the world's going to be okay if we delay the poll, or maybe they want to maybe it's real big to be one of the first ones out there. I mean, obviously you've got the summer magazine polls that all are sort of, I don't want to say they're useless, but they're kind of dated at this point with everything that's going on. Because, especially a lot of star players who feel like they're going to be first-round draft picks, it won't be a surprise if they opt out. Some of them already have. And I can't really blame them, And I think South Carolina had a couple offensive linemen. I'm not sure if they were starters or backups or what, but I saw that on Twitter today that a couple offensive linemen at South Carolina are going to opt out. And I tell you, I hope fans won't blame these guys because they're doing what they feel is right, and they want to, take care of themselves and their families. And I don't think anybody should be upset at a player who decides to opt out. I think it's just something it's just the decision everybody's got to make for themselves. That being said, I think when you look at these SEC schools, the Power 5 schools that have so many resources and so much money to do all this testing, which frankly, the mid-majors and the Division II and Division III schools, they really don't have those kind of financial resources. But I would think if I was a parent, my son would be safer on campus, with the athletic department. And I'm not trying to carry water for him or whatever, but, they've got all this, medical support staff and doctors, and, they can pretty much probably get tested about any time they need to, and they have a structured system. I think if a guy opts out, obviously he's not practicing and playing and being in close contact as football players are going to be. But if he goes home, I don't know how much safer he is. I mean, obviously it depends on how he leads his life and how careful he is about, avoiding big crowds and wearing masks and social distancing, all these kinds of things. But I really think the schools, from what I can tell, have done about as good a job as you could under the circumstances of trying to make sure their athletes stay safe.
Bob, appreciate your time, your thoughts as always. Have a good presser, and have a good weekend. Talk next week.
Okay, you guys take care. Be safe.
Thanks, Bob.
Absolutely. Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. And we'll come back. We'll wrap up the first hour of halftime right after this. Get with us at 877-377-6963. Right back.